Yate, bienvenidos, and mabuhay. New Mexico's 57th legislative session opened on Tuesday, January 20th. Before I talk about the legislative session, I want to share some encouraging news that challenges a narrative we've heard for far too long. A comprehensive new study released by the New Mexico Coalition of Educational Leaders, conducted by Everest Analytics, provides compelling evidence that New Mexico's education system is performing far better than commonly reported. This study analyzed over 280,000 student reading scores from 29 districts across the state. And the findings are striking. When student reading growth is measured on a common Lexile scale across multiple assessments, New Mexico students demonstrate steady progress that aligns with and often exceeds national growth patterns. In fact, students in grade 3 through 5 and grades 7 through 8 are growing between 12 and 72 Lexile points per year faster than national norms. Perhaps more importantly, the study reveals something critical about how we are measuring success. New Mexico's reading proficiency standards are actually more rigorous than most other states. Our proficiency cut scores translate to Lexile levels that are 13 to 39 points higher than the national median, depending on grade level. This means fewer students meet the proficient designation, not because they're performing poorly, but because we're holding them to higher expectations. When researchers adjusted New Mexico's student performance using our neighboring states' proficiency standards, such as Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Arizona, our proficiency rates increased substantially and often matched or exceeded those of those states. The message is clear. New Mexico is not last in the nation. We simply have higher standards, and our students are rising to meet them. And now, turning to the legislative session, there are at least 3 bills that we're watching closely. Senate Bill 29, the Math Requirements for Teaching License, would establish a mathematics instructional leadership framework across New Mexico. Beginning in the 2027-2028 school year, this legislation would require districts to develop mathematics professional learning plans for teachers, administer math screening assessments for students in kindergarten through 3rd grade, and provide individualized math support plans for students who need that additional help. The bill also increases mathematics coursework requirements for teachers seeking elementary or secondary math licensure. These provisions recognize that strong math instruction begins with well-prepared teachers and early identification of student needs. I do have one concern with this bill, and that's that it places an extra burden on especially our elementary teachers. Another bill, Senate Bill 37, the High Quality Literacy Instruction Act, is a continuation of our state's structured literacy movement. This year's bill would require that all literacy instruction for kindergarten through 3rd grade be aligned with the science of reading and structured literacy approaches. Starting in the year 2027-2028, schools would administer literacy assessments to all K-3 students and provide targeted interventions for those identified with reading difficulties. The legislation would also assign literacy instructional coaches to elementary schools in the bottom quartile for reading proficiency. Personally, I'm a little bit worried about our district's ability to find more quality teachers for coaches, while again increasing the workload of our existing teachers. In spite of my concerns, both bills reflect a commitment to evidence-based instruction and early intervention, principles that guide our work here in Central Consolidated. We will continue monitoring these bills as they move through the legislative process and keep you informed of any developments that directly affect our district. And now, here are your sports updates. Starting with Kirtland Central High School. The Kirtland Central wrestling program is making noise this season, consistently placing in the top 10 at meets across the state. The team heads to Ignacio on Saturday, looking to continue their hot start. Congratulations to student athletes Chance Aspas and Bryce Sanders for earning your 100th career win this month. The Lady Broncos are rolling through district play after dominating Gallup 63-38 Thursday night. Now sitting at 2-0 in the district, they'll put their perfect record on the line Tuesday when they travel to Mayamura. The boys basketball team opened district competition Wednesday with a tough 49-37 loss at Shiprock. Tonight, they'll take on Gallup at Bronco Arena, with games tipping off at 4 o'clock, 5:30, and 7 p.m. In the weight room, Kirtland Central's powerlifting program is back under new leadership. Coach Reynolds and Coach Nunez will lead the team into their first meet Saturday at Navajo Prep. The cheer team continues to impress on the competition circuit, securing a second-place finish after competing in Aztec and Santa Fe in the past 2 weekends. One more competition awaits in late February before the state championship. Down at Kirtland Middle School, all of our basketball teams earned the #1 seed heading into next week's Basin tournament. But first, they'll host Sebata Saturday morning at 9 a.m. in their regular season finale. And on to Shiprock High School. The Chieftains face a packed week of basketball action starting Tuesday, January 27th, when the Lady Chieftains host Monument Valley, Utah at 5:30 p.m., while the boys team travels to Aztec for a 4 p.m. tip-off. There'll be a quick turnaround as the boys basketball team welcomes Aztec back to the Shiprock Pit on Wednesday. On Thursday, January 29th, the Lady Chieftains return home to battle the Gallup Lady Bengals in the Pit, with action starting at 4 p.m. The boys wrap up their week on Friday, January 30th, with a road trip to Gallup for a 4 p.m. start. On the wrestling mats, both the boys and girls squads head to PV on Saturday for the Panther Showdown. Good luck, Chieftains. Also on Saturday, Shiprock High School is hosting its Chieftain and Lady Chieftain Powerlifting Invite. Hosting is the state qualifying event for over 100 powerlifters. And now, finally at Newcomb High School. The Newcomb High School Lady Skyhawks will travel to Thoreau tonight, January 23rd, as they look to improve on their 11-6 record. Currently, the Lady Skyhawks are ranked 4th in Class 3A under Crown Point, Santa Fe Indian, and Navajo Prep. Then on Wednesday, January 28th, the Lady Skyhawks will travel to Zuni for a district matchup at 6:30 p.m. The Newcomb Boys Skyhawks will take on Thoreau tomorrow, January 24th at 2 p.m. at home in the Skyhawk Arena, and on Tuesday, January 27th, they will host Zuni at 7 p.m. On Thursday, January 29th, the boys will travel to Wingate for another match at 7 p.m. This Saturday, January 24th, Newcomb's wrestling teams will head to the Hojo Academy Wolves Invite starting at 9 a.m. for a chance to earn a spot in the Boys Regional Championship, and our Newcomb powerlifting team will travel to Shiprock for the state qualifying invite. In middle school, the Lady Falcons traveled to Crown Point Middle School for their first game since the pre-pandemic era and walked away with a 40-30 victory. They will host Tohatchee Middle School this Monday, January 26th at 4 p.m. The Newcomb Middle School boys team faced a tough matchup against Chief Manuelito Middle School, but will bounce back on Monday as they will host Tohatchee Middle School at 4 p.m. Whew! And that's all I have for today. We'll see you next week. Hagone. Adios. Paalam.